Good day and welcome to the Power Up. I'm your host, Tami Hill Thomas. Grateful for another day. Grandma said if it's above the dirt, it's a good day. How about you? Come on, let's get our power up together and start with Inside the News. Today, we're going to elevate an alert from the World Health Organization discussing the outbreak and need for prevention with tuberculosis. Many of us take for granted that tuberculosis might just be something you hear about with kids, or if there's an outbreak that happens in a dorm on a college campus. But tuberculosis is a serious bacteria that causes effects in your lungs. Important because it's being elevated as a global issue. Global. That means other countries, including the United States, are experiencing an increase. So we're here to equip and educate you. Tuberculosis is spread through the air. When people with lungs who have tuberculosis in them cough, sneeze, or happen to spit into the air. Doesn't that sound a lot like the pandemic COVID-19 that we just went through? Or those recurring flu seasons, because they're all airborne. Did you know that every year 10 million people fall ill with tuberculosis, known also as TB? And despite being a preventable and curable disease, millions of people die from it. It actually is one of the entire globe, the world's top infectious killers. TB is the leading cause of death in people with HIV who have compromised immune systems, and also a major contributor to antibacterial resistance. Tammy, why is that so important? Well, everything goes down to healthcare. How often you get a physical to get you checked? How often does that physical check your lungs, your capacity for your air, being winded, making sure that you're putting something in your day to force lung health? Family, we just made it through COVID. Some of us still live with long COVID, the effects of having your lungs compromised. And if you recall, diabetes and those other health issues impact the ability to fight off those type of airborne diseases. So people infected with TB have 5 to 10% lifetime risk of falling ill to other diagnoses. Come on, family. Compromised immune systems include malnutrition, diabetes, and how about people who use tobacco? Yeah, you're allowing your lungs to not be at 100% capacity. They're being compromised by what you're putting into them. So should you encounter someone on mass transit, maybe in your workplace, your place of worship, even the grocery store, a lot of times it's not just about assembling in large gatherings. Sometimes it's just trying to meet your daily need. There are people who live with TB that don't know they have it, and so it's airborne and something you should be aware of. So family, we want to point you to the World Health Organization, who has full information on this outbreak and why it's important to educate your community and, most importantly, your family and those you're connected to. They share guidelines on prevention, how treatment, and how you can go prepared to your doctor. There are handbooks. There's also information on what's being done globally to deal with this in other countries, in China and different countries where the outbreak is just as prevalent. They're seeing it in Bangladesh and India, in Indonesia, the Philippines, South Africa, and yes, the United States. So let us be educated and empowered. Let us get information necessary so that as we go to our healthcare professionals, remember, we're living on prevention and daily habits that keep us As amazing as we are right now, still thriving 20 years from now, 30, 40, when you're in your senior years. You want to still be able to live and do just as you do right now. Family, go to WHO.int. Get educated. Tuberculosis is something you can't see, something you can't touch, but it's something you can be protected from. We interviewed a nurse on our show a few weeks ago, and we're looking forward to having her back. But when we asked her the question, with all the airborne diseases, the flu, and everything else we're dealing with, what is your number one tip for how we can be healthy? This professional who trains and travels others, who leads teams in emergency rooms, who is an expert in her field, said, Tammy, it could simply be washing your hands. How it can make a difference to make sure your hands are clean after touching a doorknob, touching that mouse on your computer, that keyboard, the refrigerator. Many things we take for granted because then we touch that all wonderful cell phone as we scroll all day. And then you know what else we touch? Our nose. That's why most of those COVID tests were taken in your sinus cavity because COVID lived in the nose. Family, do what you can to be the best you possible. WHO.int has information available for you. We also want to elevate the sustainable investment of resources, support care, and vital universal access to TB care. That's also highlighted when you go to the World Health Organization. The essential critical gaps that the studies and data and research has found, from health coverage between low income and those that might be middle to even upper and affluent, is astounding. Yeah, if treatment isn't available, this is what you see happen. But you can become equipped and your own advocate. Get ready, get empowered. Make sure you go with the list of what you've been feeling, the things you've noticed when you go to your healthcare provider for your regular annual checkups. Because if you wait until it's an emergency, sometimes those emergencies are too far gone. And that's after you're waiting in the waiting room for hours on end. And you have the ability to educate. You have the ability to help make sure that you can also contribute to sharing awareness and this information. Improvements in healthcare systems can save millions of lives. What do you need to do? Advocate. We need you to advocate for change in your community. There are boards who are seeking voices. You don't have to have millions of pieces of paper and degrees. You have to have a heart to serve. And if you want to become a real advocate, do your research. Oh, Google is a wonderful thing. And WHO.int can also prepare you so that you can be a voice for those who might be voiceless. Poverty, inequity, undernutrition, discrimination, stigmas are all major drivers of the TB epidemic. And you can make a difference. Family, go to the World Health Organization, get educated. Share the information with those on your social media platforms. You have a voice somewhere. If you can share that meal that looks good when you go to that restaurant, you can share WHO.int. If you can share the great group photos that you're taking when the family gets together, oh, those moments are wonderful. You can also share education and be a resource for change. The world needs change agents now more than ever. And how about not wait for somebody else to do it? When you have the information at your hands, come on, let's rise up, stand up, and show up together and be the difference makers in our community. We hope this information was helpful addressing the global TB epidemic. Please tap into the resources with the World Health Organization. Family, this is just the beginning to a powerful show. Stay tuned. There's so much more after this.
Hey everybody, this is Regina Hutt, the wellness practitioner on Empowered Mornings. We'd like to invite you every Wednesday night, 8 p.m., uniquely and gorgeous, to keep your mind locked and loaded on WIN Network.
What's up, family? It's your girl, Terry White Hicks, and I am here to invite you to join me every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Midday Miracles and Manna right here on We Empower Network.
Welcome back to the Power Up, all about equipping, educating, empowering, and elevating you to make a difference where you are. We're going to now move into our motivation moment where we're going to respond to a viewer inquiry. We love your feedback. We love all of the questions that you elevate, the request for expertise, even insight and skill. One of our viewers wrote, Tami, we're having difficult conversations on the job. I'm trying to be a leader where I am, but how do we address the perspectives of others and their delivery? The conversations are just so difficult right now, and we don't know what's ahead. We thank our viewer for submitting that email. Listen, first, thank you for owning the fact that conversations have to happen. See, we don't like difficult conversations, but they have to happen. In this life, we will have trouble. It's a promise. The good thing is that trouble like storms pass, but it's how you deal with it in the moment that makes you the difference maker. So as you address the fact that you know the job is facing whatever scenario it is you're facing, I want to share this, not just to this reviewer, but to anyone who's facing a conversation that might not feel good, because oftentimes that's what makes it difficult. We, instead of dealing with the issue, face first the feelings. And that's fine. Empathy is important. Humility and understanding, knowing that it's not just your perspective, but the person you're speaking with is absolutely valuable. Every voice matters. However, the best leaders find ways to still deal with what is in front of them and gain respect and teamwork from those around them. Difficult conversations require listening more than speaking. Oftentimes, I share with leaders when I conduct communication courses or when I speak at universities. And one of the main things I tell them is to remember the acronym WAIT. WAIT. The acronym stands for, why am I talking? Come on, somebody. Especially for those of us that constantly use this to make our money, right? We're the ones people come to confide in or to be a resource, or they're coming to seek expertise. Well, this becomes your gift to the world, your seeds, right? It's what you do to help nurture others, to help have maybe even bring peace to a moment of chaos. So in the moment, listen up. Make sure that you're gaining information, because that honestly is what will help drive your conversation. I want to remind folks that conversations are two-way streets. We forget that oftentimes. Sometimes I'm telling you where I'm coming from. It's about me making sure you get it. You give folk the hand like you don't care, and give them the attitude and the gestures and body language. And that certainly is just going to add fuel to the fire, isn't it? If you would, switch roles for a minute. What if there was a dialogue that needed to happen and someone gave you all of that? Would you feel valued? Would you feel heard, considered? If we're all in this difficult space together on the job, what makes you better than me? Especially if you're speaking about things that's going to impact my paycheck and my family and my bills, right? So we have to make sure that listening first becomes the essential factor in conversations of every level, not just where they're difficult. I want to share this with my folks who dislike speaking to individuals they consider haters. Back in the 60s, they were called jive turkeys. Listen, we're quick to label individuals instead of understanding that you're the only amazing you on the planet who thinks like you, processes like you, has feelings like you. You can have identical twins, triplets. You are unique to you. So everybody else is going to think differently. Instead of seeing it as adversity or even hate, learn how to do like fish. Eat the meat, what's for you, and spit out the bones. In other words, you don't have to own someone else's opinion. But if they have information that can help you, come on and get better. Family, also when in those difficult conversations, remember to be clear. Clarity is everything. Be honest. Be okay with saying your feelings are valid. I got to say, I say that almost every day to someone because it takes the situation from here to at least a little bit less. Instead of going full steam ahead, maybe into neutral. As a trained mediator with law enforcement, we have to learn how to be aware. Situational awareness is number one. And remember that where that person is 100% truth to them in the moment. That's why you have to be careful with how you approach individuals, for example, who might struggle with PTSD, who may have served time in another country or even in a war, because there might be times when in their mind, they're back on the battlefield. You can say all you want. Stop. Sit down. Don't do that. When someone is where they are mentally, it's important to make sure that you respect where they are, including their space. And then they can start to hear at whatever level. Sometimes we label conversations as difficult, and they're really not. Maybe the task is hard to talk about. Those of us who've had to fire people, that's a difficult conversation because feelings are involved. You don't want to do it. But if we're laying off folks and it's above me and it's my job, then I have to find a way in how to deliver it where the person is valued. So make sure you're clear with the message. This is what we're dealing with. That way, everybody is 100% on the same page. Be true. Make sure truth is prominent. That way, when feelings do arise, it's not a matter of mistreatment, but fact. You got that? The fact is that our department is downsizing. We have to let go of everyone in this department. The agency doesn't have the money to continue to pay because the contract that the agency was receiving for this work just didn't get renewed. And so we don't have the ability to carry the entire department for work that we're no longer being funded to do. Fact, truth. This is what the issue is, right? Acknowledging where we are is something someone will respect even when it doesn't feel good. I'll give you an example. How many times have those of us who have children had to say no? Baby, I just don't have it in this check. We can't do that. That's overpriced for me. So you give the truth first. And then you entertain and start looking at other options. In other words, you don't leave them hanging. So have you looked to see if that tennis shoe is on another site? I know your birthday's coming. How about we get it then? That gives me a few months to save up everything. It's not that I don't want to get it for you. I love you. Reaffirming that person, making sure they're valued. But right now, I just don't have it. How much more respect, even though that child is not going to want to hear it because they want what they want. Even though some of us who are grown may go to our spouses and say, hey, babe, you know, I really want that bad. And my husband looks at me, y'all can tell I just had this conversation. And my husband looks at me and says, yeah, I know, hon, I got you. He didn't say, go get it right now, give me the credit card. And Christmas is months away. But what I know is, it's in him to know what I like. And he honored me by hearing me, validating, valuing me, making me feel appreciated. Family, difficult conversations are true. It's not something you can go around. And I want to reiterate one more thing. Be okay with disagreement. Be okay with understanding. Everybody's not going to be team you, and everyone is not going to see and receive what you have to say. When we knew that my dad was about to pass, he dealt with stage 4 cancer. We were with him till the end. Still hearing those words rubbed me the wrong way, sent me somewhere because my emotions were inflamed. That was my hero. I can't listen to what you're saying. In other words, my realness, my reality didn't have anything to do with what the nurse was trying to share me. It wasn't her fault. It was a fact. And then after I came out of my feelings, I was able to process. But I respected her delivery and the fact that she was truthful in what we were facing. Difficult conversations happen. Be okay with disagreement, that someone is not going to agree with you, the human being you are, because everybody doesn't like you. First, be okay with that. And it takes some of us a long time to get that message, let me tell you, especially people pleasers, those folks who love harmony. It's hard to know that folk out there just don't like me. But then you get to a space where you fall in love with you, and that's all that you need. Yeah. Let the chips fall where they may. I'm Team Tami. You don't have to be. It's okay. I'm still going to be out here doing me as best as I can, impacting the world as much as I can. And let me tell you, the reason that's important is being okay is some of the folks who I've had disagreements with at one time or another have come back to me later and said, I remember you said this, or I remember you did this. I've had folks who were full steam ahead, I categorized as a hater, turn around and bless me, y'all. I mean, bless. And so never allow disagreement to define a relationship. Accept it. Don't own it, because that's that person's perspective. Be okay with you, with where you are, with understanding you're doing the best you can in that space, with fulfilling all life has for you. Handle the task in front of you, listening first, being clear with the message, and being okay with the response you receive from the individual. With the exception of anything violent where you got to call the authorities in. That's just not okay on any level. Safety first. That's a whole nother thing they teach us in mediation, how to situate your body, how to make sure you're near an open door, all of those type of things, how you can stay safe when a situation is just that heavy. But that's for someone being put into a crisis. If you are preparing a conversation that you believe is not going to be received well, deal with you first, stay centered, stay settled, stay kind, compassionate, empathetic. Folks feel those things. They'll feel like you care. And then be truthful. Allow space for that person to share thoughts. Allow space. I know this isn't the best news, and I know it's going to impact you. Do you have any questions? Allow them that space. They might respond with stuff that's not something you want to hear, but it honors them. If you have resources available, be prepared. That's another thing. I know that we lost the contract here, but I want to give you the name of the agency that got the contract. You do amazing work, and I think you should reach out to them. The contract is now with. Please go. We will give you a great review, and we can make sure you meet with a letter of recommendation. How about have it available when you know you're about to give that hard dialogue, that bad news about the layoffs? Now, this is all in the context of work because our viewer mentioned at the office. But just know, anytime you can be a resource to someone puts you in a better place. We have to close the doors of the church because there's a leak in the roof. So we're all going to assemble here. See, you have prepared, you have a plan. So folks aren't just tripping that they don't have a place of worship and they still want to serve. We're going to do this now. We're now going to meet here, and we're going to go on Zoom for these Bible studies, but we're going to use a school. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, think about ways to be prepared as a resource, as a support, and then listen first, be truthful about the message, and always be okay with where that person is and how they may respond. Because here's the thing, switch roles. What if it was you? Wouldn't you want someone that was kind? I mean, just be nice. Wouldn't you want someone that seemed to care? That's why human resource experts are so important, because they're not just trained in the work of hiring and firing. They're trained in customer service. Their job is dealing with the human capital in the world, the talent development that is people. So they're skilled in conversations. They have a great gift in being able to have resources available to you. And the worst case scenario, sis or brother who wrote the email, the worst scenario, after all of this, you will have grown and learned how to handle difficult conversations better. On a professional front, as an individual, as a human being, if things happen in your neighborhood, you'll know how to handle that. You'll feel more confident when it comes to those hard topics. You'll be okay with understanding and that folks don't necessarily have to vibe with you, jive with you, and you won't put as much effort into that. You'll connect with folks, and when you feel that that's not where the vibe is, you'll say, keep going. Have a good day. Right? It's okay. We all matter. We're all different, but we all matter. Family, we hope this motivation moment and the response to our viewer was helpful. Please always feel free to send your emails, Tami@thepowerup.net, or to the We Empower Network. With all the shows and all the expertise, we're going to respond in some way. Oh, wow, that helped me. I don't know about y'all, but that really did help me. All right, so we're not finished, though. There's so much more, family. Stay tuned.
Hello, it's Marshall Bowler Weeks, and I'm here to talk about a concept that is very important to us as believers in the business world: ethical investing. This isn't just about seeking financial returns, but aligning our investments with our core values. Ethical investing means putting our money into companies and people that not only thrive financially, but also uphold strong ethical practices. We're talking about businesses that prioritize social responsibility, engage in charitable activities, and contribute positively to society. As believers, being good stewards over our current and future blessings, it's our responsibility to ensure our investments, money, and time reflect His teachings. This includes supporting companies and people that care for the environment, treat their employees and business partners with dignity and respect, and give back to society's well-being. But how do we identify these opportunities? It begins with due diligence. Do your research. Put that Google search engine to work. Make some phone calls. Ask about people and their business practices, their impact on the community, and how they align with our values as believers. It also means staying informed about where our money is going and the kind of activities it supports. In closing, ethical investing is not just a financial strategy, it's a testament to our faith. By choosing to invest our time and money ethically, we're not only aiming for financial success, but also for a greater good, ensuring our investments contribute positively to God's kingdom. You've been empowered because you should prosper.
Welcome back to the Power Up family. We have had such a powerful, informative show thus far, and it's not over yet. We want to elevate during this health front the need to consider and make our family aware of autoimmune diseases. Autoimmune diseases that can include arthritis and lupus and inflammable bowel disease and multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, chronic inflammatory diseases, psoriasis, Graves' disease, thyroiditis. Listen, I'm still naming diseases here because they're contributed to and affect our autoimmune system. The system that helps your fight or flight, the system that helps you fight a cold. It's important that you know how you can prevent, treat, improve your autoimmune system. But today I'm excited because we have a guest who is truly an advocate, a warrior in her own right. On the Power Up, we're so glad to welcome Miss Chanel Monique Lee, who is going to share her story and her insight in autoimmune disease and the impact in the community. Welcome, Chanel, to the Power Up.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me? Awesome, awesome. I am so excited to be on today, especially with bringing awareness to the autoimmune disease. Most people don't even know what it is, and most people don't know that we can look absolutely normal and still be affected by a disease that our body is fighting against itself. So thank you so much for having me. I don't know if you want me to go into my story, my testimony, or how the autoimmune disease has affected me.
It's all right. No, we're just glad to have you on the platform. Here at the Power Up, one of the things that we love to do is share education and information, but also inspiration. And your heart as an advocate is one thing. Your life story is another that I have a feeling fed into you becoming the advocate community voice that you are. So please, share your story and how you're making a difference in the community.
I was sitting listening to you on the show and talking about the job and talking about having difficult conversations and how to, navigate those conversations. But with me, I just turned 41 in February, and I've been diagnosed with lupus and ITP and sickle cell trait. And so I was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder, autoimmune disorder. And when I first got diagnosed, I was working a job almost 5 years into that job, almost 14 years ago. And I was on that job thinking it was my all in. I was going to retire. I loved what I did. I was a financial counselor, and I used to help people consolidate their credit card debt. So I would talk to so many people about finances and having their life, getting their life back in order, not telling some hid it from their husbands, but that's not my, business. But, some hid it from their wives. But my job was to help them find a solution. And as I'm finding a solution, I became one of the top representatives at the company because I love what I did. And I believe in helping people. That's just me. I love helping people. I don't believe that we were put here just to, just exist, but to help someone else along the way. And so I mean, as I'm working that job, I end up, I was working from home back then. It was 14 years ago. I was working from home doing doing their job. And they asked me to come into the office to train someone, not knowing that I had an autoimmune disorder, not knowing that when I went in the office, a girl ended up having the flu and I got pneumonia. So when I got pneumonia, my temperature was 105. And I told them, I said, I'm feeling like I'm about to faint. I need to go to the hospital. The doctor, they told me, they said, you know what? You got to wait till your break. I said, I got to wait till my break. I said, my temperature, I'm in here not feeling good. I'm about to faint. And I end up just walking out and going to the hospital that was like a mile up the road, which is Rex Hospital. And as soon as I got there, they, rushed me to the back and told me, you know what, if you wouldn't have came, you would have died. And so when I went into the hospital, they found out that my platelet counts was like at a 10, which was, it was actually detrimental. They was trying to figure out why my platelet counts was a 10. If anybody know, the platelet count's supposed to be 400 something, 500 something. So, and then when I got admitted to the hospital, they didn't want to admit me at first. And I told them, I said, no, something is wrong. I can't go home. It's just not pneumonia. Something else is wrong. And I kept fighting them and telling them, no, check something else, check this, check that. And they did. I mean, they ran tests. I had insurance. I got good insurance. You better run some tests, because most people don't want to run tests because they think about the money. I was not thinking about the money or the bill. I was thinking about my life. So, because I have a long life to live. I know what God had promised me. He promised me with long life, he would satisfy me. So I'm not giving up just what you saying and I'm okay to go home. So they ran tests and they admitted me to the hospital. When they admitted me to the hospital, the doctor came in and told me, you know what, you got lupus. I said, lupus? What is lupus? 15 years ago, 14 years ago, lupus wasn't that popular. It wasn't something that you talked about like now. We have more awareness, but it was just something that we dealt with. And it runs in my family. My auntie had passed away from lupus. My cousin just passed away last month with lupus. Her brother passed away with lupus almost 2 years ago. And this is what drives me, because I ended up being in the hospital for 3 consecutive months because they didn't know how to treat it. They didn't know. They told me either they would go in between my heart and my lungs, or I would die with pneumonia because it affected my lungs. And most people don't know it can affect your organs. Any of your organs can fail. And so But it went to my lungs and I couldn't breathe. I was on a breathing machine. I was given 3 50-50 chances of living at that time. They told me one night they came in my room because my temperature had went up so high and my blood pressure had dropped. And they told me, you know what, call your family and tell your family that you might not make it. And, and just going, I still get a little tear up when I, tell my testimony, but I know that it'll help someone else because the thought of 14 years ago, they told me that I wasn't going to make it. And to be here today is such a blessing to be able to talk about, what they diagnosed me with. And they told me I had ITP, which is a blood disorder where my blood does not clot. Then they told me I had sickle cell trait, which, I'm anemic. And so all of these come together, made it such a rare fight in a rare lupus diagnosed because they didn't know which one was affecting my body. And so not only did I have my spleen removed, which fights off infection, so I don't have an immune system. And like you was talking about that, how to stay clean, how to navigate through this COVID. I'm having to be in a bubble because I have to protect myself highly. Like I can't have anyone around me that's out in the public. They have to have a mask on. And, as I'm laying in that hospital bed, going back to that, diagnosed 3 months in that hospital bed, my job called me and told me, we terminate your position. So not only did I lose my job, I lost my all in. Remember, I told you I thought I was going to retire. I lost my mind. My daughter, my daughter heard, the doctors tell me that I wasn't going to make it. She started acting out. It was just everything went chaotic in my life when I got diagnosed with lupus. Not only am I in the hospital and they took my health care away. So getting out the hospital, it was hard to try to get medication because they didn't know which one to to give me. And that's what, when I got out, thank the Lord, I told the Lord, I said, the Lord, if you get me out of this, I will serve you for the rest of my life. And I will advocate for people and I will help people. You know how you have that moment with God, that come to Jesus moment that I'm going to do right when I get out of this hospital. And so thank God I ended up getting out the hospital, but the fight wasn't over. The fight wasn't over. And as here it is, they told me when I got out the hospital, and I still see, the doctors now, but they told me I wouldn't last 5 years. And here it is, 14 years that I've been living diagnosed with this rare lupus. Now, do I have, times where I'm in the hospital? Yes, they told me in January again that I might not make it. They said, you know what, we don't know how to treat you. I said, don't worry. I got God on my side. I'm going to make it up out of here. And I never put on that hospital gown. So I never put on that hospital gown or the hospital socks. I keep my clothes on. And so that's how I position myself, because my mind is like, I'm not here to stay. I'm just here visiting. I'm just here for a pit stop. And I end up coming, I tell everybody, look, don't worry, I'm coming out in the next day or so. And I come out the hospital in the next day or so because my mind is the condition that I'm going to beat this thing. This thing is not going to beat me. I'm just listening. This is something that I have to go through. And for someone else to make it through, I might be somebody else's strength because they see me make it through all of these things. And God gets the glory because he brings me through. But you got to understand, when you have an autoimmune disorder and the doctors are practicing, they're practicing medicine. They don't have a cure. They say they don't have a cure, but I'm already healed because I walk in it and knowing that whatever that they throw at me, I'm going to make it through this. I'm going to make it through this. And that's what started me, back then to start my lupus foundation, Fight for Lupus, because no one was talking about Lupus. No one tells that 1 out of 5 people are diagnosed with lupus and an autoimmune. It's so many autoimmune disorders that you can't even count right now how they affect your body. And some days you can be up, some days you can be down, but they don't deem this as a disability because they feel like we can get back up. They don't deem it as I've been down for like a couple of months because it's my body's getting older, and then with the cold weather, with the change of the weather, it can affect you in any kind of way. The even this pollen can affect you, and it could just trigger something in your body, and it's an auto, meaning that it's auto. It doesn't. We can't control it. I can't stop it. And so I started advocating for Fight for Lupus. Now with my Fight for Lupus, we help people raise money for, if they lost their insurance and get medicine. We help also, I had got diagnosed one time and they told me I needed a kidney. My kidneys was failing and I didn't know what to do. I know the donor list, getting on the donor list or going to dialysis was going to be detrimental. It was going to be a lot for me. And so we try to, and then my liver function, it can damage your liver function. And they check my liver function and make sure you were just talking about the hepatitis and all of those different diseases that affect us. These things are things that we get easily, because of lupus can affect any organ in your body. It can affect your brain. I had meningitis of the brain, so my memory is it's a little, it's getting sharper. I'm gonna say it's getting sharper, but I had a brain infection when I got diagnosed, so I had to have a spinal tap. So all of these things, I had to stay up on my breast cancer, going to get a breast mammograms. I have to stay up on that because I had a cyst in my breast. I had spots in my lungs. I've had so many things happen to me, about when it comes to this autoimmune that I have to fight, that most people look at you and they think, oh, you're happy, you're healthy. I'm happy because I'm still living. I'm still here. Listen, you said we're going to go through trials, but listen, the Lord delivers us out of all of them because I'm still here. And we advocate, and that's why I advocate, because I lost my favorite auntie. And also I've diagnosed myself. I'm in the fight of my life right now, with them not knowing how to treat me. They don't have a clue. They can give me, now I have a condition where my blood clots. And I have DVTs, and I have lungs, blood clots in my lungs, in my chest. So I'm on Eliquis, and Eliquis now is not working for me. It's not stopping the blood clots. And so I'm having to have all kinds of, ultrasounds and CT scans every month. And it's so much that people don't know you deal with, and with having an autoimmune disorder, and because they can switch instantly. It can one minute you can have bleed, next minute you're bleeding and clotting. So
I tell you what though, you sure don't look like what you've been going through. Let me just say that for the record. You look phenomenal. Your voice and your fight are admirable. There are some folks that get knocked down and stay down, and it sounds like you not only came up swinging, but you're moving forward swinging. And your voice matters to those who are voiceless. So speaking from one lupus sister to another, I lost my thyroid due to lupus, the Graves' disease, and some of those other diseases that we talk about, and Sjogren's syndrome. And the interesting thing is we aren't the faces of a disease. We're the faces of victory. But everybody in this world is going to deal with something. And the reason we're grateful that you're sharing your story today is first because you share such an empowering spirit, fight, perseverance, endurance, that folks, no matter what you're dealing with, need to be able to see, Well, if she can go through that, I can sure make it through this. So first, thank you for that. But I do want to step back for a minute. I know we're drawing back on our time. And I got to tell you again, thank you for your transparency and your heart. And our hearts are extended to you with the loss of your family. I've also lost loved ones to it. And it's really hard, right? Sometimes it's hard to get out of bed. Sometimes it's hard to just keep moving. But I want to share for our viewers one thing. And then I want to come back and allow you to give some closing encouragement to somebody who might need it, because you are also an advocate for people, not just for lupus. So I want you to pour into someone who might be discouraged. But I do want to share this. When you think about lupus, when you think about any autoimmune disease, I want to first share education. There are over 100 different autoimmune diseases that have been identified by medical professionals. There are many that Congress has, this is for the United States, that Congress has identified are so prevalent that they're putting money into trying to find cures or researching and elevating awareness, like lupus, that, as you said, went years before it was finally identified as a thing. Just like COVID-19 wiped out a whole lot of people before it was finally identified as a thing. But 24 million people in just the United States, 24 million live with different autoimmune diseases, and yet still may not know what triggers it. And so in our education, we want to leave you with information. First, family, consider going to webmd.com if you're looking for just some regular resources that can help you understand this whole autoimmune disease conversation. There are resources there and information. Many know WebMD is a viable company that's supported in our United States. Feel free to go there and get educated. But I also want to share the Autoimmune Association. The Autoimmune Association, which is autoimmune.org, not only has a banner for keeping regular information on autoimmune diseases, but also they've created an autoimmune disease day and month that have been sanctioned to make sure to elevate this type of information. So you might not say, I have. What this information is meant to do is have you prepared to do your own research in case you have a family member where the doctor says they gave me a diagnosis. One thing I tell folks, Chanel, is don't trip when you get a diagnosis. Start researching and learn that thing. Become your own advocate. But the other thing is to make sure that you become empowered, that no matter what the it is you deal with, that you can overcome, that you can have a warrior spirit just like Chanel, and that you can win at life in spite of. Okay, so WebMD and autoimmune.org. Make sure to tap into those resources so that you can become educated. Listen, I can't let you go. The powerhouse you are, the amazing community just impact that you have, that I've just heard about on many different levels, without allowing you space to pour into some of our viewers who maybe they're not dealing with autoimmune, maybe they're not dealing with family members that have those. Maybe it's cancer, maybe it's a job loss, maybe it's just dealing with mental health struggles or a breakup, heartache. Maybe they're just dealing with the issues of life. Please take a few minutes or seconds and share some hope with those individuals.
I definitely want to share some hope with someone. Again, when I was asked to come on last Thursday, I just lost another job of 5 years from being diagnosed with lupus, being out in the hospital and being out of work for 3 months. So, to those people, if you thinking, I'm giving you something that I'm not going through. I'm going through it. I just was in the hospital in January. They gave me a 50-50 chance to live in. Didn't know what was going on. I had a blood clot and I had pneumonia in my lungs. So I want to give this hope to someone. You can always get back up. You can always get back up. Let me just tell you, regardless of what you go through, when one door closes, 10 more open. He opens the windows of heaven to pour you out blessings that you don't have room enough to receive. So if you're going through cancer, it's not the end. If you're going through a job loss, it's not the end. I'm gonna tell you, when he took away my 9 to 5, but he also increased my businesses that I had already I already established, because I knew not to have my eggs in one basket no more. They did it before 15 years ago. Of course, I know my situation, so I am proactive. So you got to understand, when you can get back up, regardless of your situation, regardless of your circumstance, you can always get back up. Don't give up. The fight is not over. We are faces of victory. We already have the victory. All you have to do is just walk in it. When you walk in it with confidence and boldness, I'm going to tell you, things start to happen. Don't focus on your circumstance, but focus on what God, and be appreciative that you're still here and you still got breath in your lungs, and he can still make a way out of no way. And I'm going to tell you, when you do that, it's a joy that no one can take away from you, because that's what the enemy wants. He wants you to be down and out. He wants you to be upset and depressed and anxiety. He wants you to live in the lack and all the things that have happened. But when you live in the joy of the Lord is my strength, because I'm still alive. Somebody didn't make it last night, but he chose you on this wake up list this morning, this evening. He chose you, and your name was called to be amongst us. So you got to make it. Look, he said he chose you and you're destined for greatness. So listen, don't give up. You can get back up. And if you always need encouragement, you always can come to Chanel Monique, ChanelMonique.com, because I will encourage and uplift and pull you up. Because listen, me encouraging someone else encourages myself. So that's how I do it. I live up. That's how I encourage others and encourage myself at the same time. And it gives me strength to continue to keep going, regardless of the diagnosis, regardless of what the doctors say, regardless of what the world system got going on. I know that I'm here for a purpose, and I'm going to be able to complete that purpose, my assignment here. I'm going to complete my assignment until the day he comes back. And listen, I want you to know that it's not over. You already have the victory, and continue to walk in confidence.
Drop the mic. Thank you so much, Chanel Monique. Again, how can folks reach you? ChanelMonique.com.
Yes, it's Chanel Monique, ChanelMonique.com. Again, Chanel Monique, ChanelMonique.com. Hold on, let me say it 3 times, because a 3-strand cord is not easily broken. Let me just tell you, Chanel Monique, ChanelMonique.com, or you can always go to my Facebook's name, Chanel Monique. It is spelled just like that. It's not the Lee on the Chanel Monique on my Facebook page. And I have an Elite Business Women Association magazine. I was just on the morning show, so I'm just super excited to collaborate and connect with other women that are doing great things in impacting the community. So thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, we're so grateful that you came and shared your story. Family, you can reach out to her on any social media platforms. Thank you for Chanel Monique for being with us today. As we go into our wrap up, wow, what a powerful show, family. We had the opportunity of making sure to elevate the need to be aware of tuberculosis that's elevated globally around the world by the World Health Organization. We also shared some motivation moment tips on how to deal with difficult conversations. Make sure that you tap into all the information, resources around you, and then yes, Yes, what a way to end with such a powerhouse living warrior, such a gift to the world in Chanel Monique. We, as always, thank all of our emergency first responders for putting yourselves in harm's way, and veterans and our military. Family, we'll see you next time.